Haya Mati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Chane Nivasishya Sunyabhari Ashtatara Satarana Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, I thought just in case we might have forgot, but I don't think we have, let's just go through the personalities that Narada has so far visited or been inspired by. It'd be good if, see, the idea if we keep reminding ourselves, then by the time we finish reading this part of Bhagavatamrita, you can recite from memory each person that Narada was glorifying and was inspired by. So can anyone tell us where it all began?
From the Brahmana.
Yeah, the Prayaga Brahmana.
Yeah.
Very good, Vishal. Thank you. And then that Prayaga Brahmana, he revealed his object of inspiration, or who he was inspired by. And that was
King from the south.
inspired by
King from south.
King from south. Vishal is quite read up on Bhagavatamrita. Yeah. The Southern king. He far excelled from the this Prayag Brahmana. He far excelled himself in his devotional life, and there was a nice description of his kingdom. And how there was festivals practically every day, wonderful deity worship, and so much prasadam was distributed. I think, remember rightly, it was a lot of the culture, a lot of the devotional culture was spoken of there. The culture in relationship to worship in the Lord, specifically temples, where the whole village, a whole country is centered around the worship of the Lord in a temple. So that was a very wonderful description of that southern king. So then the southern king, he thought himself quite insignificant, and he instead directed Narada to directed him to
Indra.
Yes, Indra, the king of heaven. So from Bhoma to Divya, yeah? From earth to the higher realms. Yeah, so Indra, and Indra was worshipping the Lord with great awe and reverence. And the next one is, if we got Indra, the next one, personality, perhaps easy to get. Indra didn't take so kindly to the worship, and he pointed out the many defects in his career. Indra was mentioning the many defects, even battling Krishna over Krishna's taking the parijata flower, wasn't it? Under the instructions of his wife, I think it was Rukmini. Yeah. So Indra directed Narada to, let's have someone else apart from Madhvi. She's got them all memorized. I'm sorry, Vishalni. Otherwise, we'll let Mother Vishalni tell us again. So someone else can say after Indra. I can give you a clue.
Yes, please give us a clue.
He's got 4 heads.
Okay.
Brahma.
Brahma, yes.
Didn't think so.
Look, Brahma, he's got 4
I
heads.
didn't know. She told me it's Brahma.
Yeah, very intelligent, 4 heads. Brahma is very intelligent as well. Yeah, he is made of intelligence. That's Lord Brahma. We are made of earth, water, air, and ether. He is made of intelligence. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'll go into that. I was looking at, anyway, let's go on quick before I get sidetracked. So the next one then, if we've got Indra and then we've got Brahma, who is next? Man.
It's not Narada Muni, is it?
No, Narada Muni's the one who's going around. Narada Muni is the story of the universe.
Prahlāda.
I could give you a clue if you want. If you want a clue.
Shiva?
Okay, Lord.
Lord Shiva?
Yes, Lord Shiva.
Well,
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Let's see you.
she needs to sit with us. She can tell
Yeah.
us.
The
Hari
teacher.
bol, Tulsi.
The clue I was going to give is that he's got scorpions crawling in his hair. And he's got snakes, as we know, wrapped around his arms. And there's quite a graphic description, wasn't it, if I remember rightly, of Lord Shiva there. As we know, he has skulls around for a necklace. Anyway, let's go on. So then there was an interesting bit of a side, kind of a sidetrack here. Lord Shiva began to glorify who? He began to glorify Dwarka. It might be difficult to remember that part. And he began to specifically speak about the queens of Dwarka. And as we were speaking about that, then he got, as Narada was about to go to the Vaikunthas and go to Dwarka, he happened to mention that actually there's a great devotee in this earthly realm who you should go to see. And that is
Prahlāda.
who?
Prahlāda.
Yes, Prahlāda. Yeah, that's it. And that's where we are now. I was going to give you a clue. The clue for Prahlāda is that he suffered, I want to say, child abuse is not, I don't want to use that word, it brings up very negative connotations today. But he was attempted to be killed by his father. Yeah, so that's Prahlāda. And I think last week, Prahlāda was really going, really, 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 I would say, it was really, he was really dissecting every detail of his glorification and refuting every little, in every way that we may see Prahlāda's, which he is, as a great devotee. He is seeing the opposite. He is seeing himself as being of no worth whatsoever and of no devotional credits. Of course, we don't go along with that, but that's his humble disposition. So we're just coming to the end of this now. This is where we pick it up today. I just looked a few verses forward, as I did at the end of last week's class. And a few more verses. Then he's going to direct him to a devotee of Lord Ramachandra. That's given that away. That's Hanuman. Okay. So let's begin reading then. We're on, my bookmark shows we're on text 34. Is that correct or is that wrong?
Yeah,
That's right,
whenever.
Prabhu. That's right, Prabhu. Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. Okay, 34. So let's see who's got their hands up. Someone put their hand up first, but I didn't see. So anyway, Suniti Priya is at the top of the list. You can begin reading.
Thank you.
34.
Yep. Wherever one develops an intense desire to achieve the Supreme Lord, there one can obtain him. But the Lord merely residing the certain place does not grant one his association. The personality of Godhead does not give himself away to those whose desires are not absolutely pure. Only perfect love can induce him to reveal himself. If the Lord presents the place where sufficient cause of realizing him, then every living being throughout the universe should already have attained him, since in his form of Shri Vasudeva and Super Soul, he is all-pervading. Pure devotees are convinced that the Lord is permanently present in his internal abode that have appeared on earth. That conviction, however, is born of the devotees' forward eagerness to realize their personal relationship with the Lord. Without that strong desire, one will not have much faith in his presence. It is true that in Shri Vrindavana and some other abodes of the Supreme Lord, even devotees with a mature faith are sometimes granted a vision of the Lord and his pastime. But we should understand that this occurs only by the special potency of these places, which are expectantly dear to the personality of Godhead. Nowadays, the Lord does not reveal himself as easily in every holy places where he appeared in the past. If my Lord, sorry, yeah, go.
So you may read in Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord appears. Sometimes he appeared, for instance, in the sacrifice of Daksha. Well, when all the mess was cleared up, when the whole fight was over, a big fight between the followers of Daksha and Shiva, then the Lord was kind to appear. Vishnu appeared, and you find that in other places of the Srimad Bhagavatam where the Lord appears, and not even if those who are worshipping him have mixed desires, which is interesting. Normally we hear, or we understand that the Lord may only appear to us or appear to the bhakta at the stage, at the perfectional stage. But here it's mentioned that sometimes that he does appear, mentioned here, to those with immature faith, are even given a vision of the Lord. So that's the Lord's prerogative. For instance, he appeared before Dhruva, and Dhruva was not a pure devotee. He was definitely a mixed devotee, but the Lord appeared to him, yeah? And that was he appeared to him because he strictly followed the instructions of his pure devotee Narada, and he was very determined in following orders of his guru. So Lord Vishnu appeared, and also to stop the universe from suffocating. That was a side benefit. The whole universe was being choked up by his tapasya. So I just wanted to highlight that. Just something the Lord, yeah, only perfect love can induce him to reveal himself. And he appeared as well. He was present, wasn't it, in the Battle of Kurukshetra, and
Yes.
he was there for the Pandavas, but everyone else could see him. Kauravas, Duryodhan, and Co, and his 100 henchmen, and his 100 brothers, and Sakuni, who were definitely of a dubious materialistic character, but they could see Krishna. But they couldn't see the same Krishna that the cowherd boys saw, or Mahavir Soda, obviously, or even Radharani, or even his devotees. Krishna doesn't, he reveals himself differently. Like everyone could see him, and there was very much, especially all the warriors were definitely much captivated by him, yeah? Even the warriors on the other side. But Krishna revealed a certain aspect of his beauty and his sweetness, but not completely, because they were not qualified. So it's an interesting subject, and that the Lord appears, and it's mentioned here that the Lord has appeared in our hearts as the super soul, which is very kind of him. He's actually right there in the very core of our heart. But Prahlāda is mentioning here that just because the Lord is present it doesn't mean that it doesn't indicate that someone is highly, may not indicate that one is very highly advanced. So interesting example given in the explanation, that the Lord is present as a super soul. Yeah. And not everyone is a realized soul. So in the same way, sometimes the Lord may appear to those who may be immature in devotion. So Prahlāda is mentioning that, okay, the Lord appeared before me, but he appears before so many people, yeah, by his own sweet will, who may not be perfect in devotion. So very intelligently, Prahlāda is being very evasive. I mean, he's always not being, he's always redirecting the praise. Yeah. And interesting as well, the Lord would generally he appears, he used to appear in the past a lot more than what he does now. Yeah.
Why is that, Muli Prabhu?
Well, it's the age of Kali, what can we say?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's because of that, isn't it? That's right.
Yeah. The atmosphere was a lot more pristine in the past, a lot more sattvic and a lot more, say, spiritual.
Mm.
All right, just thought I'd bring that up. Just any other questions or comments on that? Otherwise, we allow opportunity for you can continue. Text 35.
If my
Yeah.
Lord were always present here in a person, why would I have traveled all the way to Namicharayan to see him as Lord Pitvasa, the yellow-garbed form of Narayan? We can say that by your mercy, the Supreme Lord developed some love for me, and so I appear glorious. But my greatness is just like teeny speck before the hips of mercy the Lord bestows on his newer devotees. Out of humility and respect for his guru, Narada Prahlāda now realized that he should not have contradicted Narada's statement. Therefore, he now approaches the question from another angle, acknowledging Narada's words, but reiterating them. Your devotee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reinterpreting.
Yeah. Them, near devotees like Hanuman, Prahlāda says, were favored by the Supreme Lord much more. After a person has seen the great ocean, the sight of a small lake will no longer impress him. O Narada, your heart overflows with causeless compassion. Why should I go in describing all my misfortunes, which simply makes you unhappy? Instead, please consider the Lord's mercy of Hanuman of the Kimpusasur.
Yeah.
Since Narada is naturally compassionate to all the suffering souls, Prahlāda thinks Narada has been speaking just to encourage him with words of exaggerated praise. And so Prahlāda thinks that the continuance of describing his own misfortune will be distress. Narada, his spiritual master, thus resurrecting the Guru Aparada. Narada cannot tolerate unhappiness in anyone, especially his own disciple. Since Narada is intent on finding the truth of respected of the Supreme Lord mercy, Prahlāda tries to deviate Narada's attention to professing Hanuman as alternative. He tells Narada, Pasa, don't just accept my word on this. Please go witness his glories for yourself. Please note
just pause there a little bit. So let's just try and follow. It's nice to try and follow Prahlāda's mentality here. Now, he's been putting himself down to such a degree that he's thinking, perhaps maybe even thinking anyway, at least that he might cause distress to his guru. and he doesn't want to do that. Yeah, he's even mentioned that could be guru aparad, to cause the guru to be distressed. So, so therefore, he's going to change the subject. That's a good tip. If someone is praising you, change the subject.
And so, really, Prabhu, would it be considered like Guru Aparad? Like, I find that my Guru finds that a lot of devotees go to him with their like personal problems, like maybe they have like a relationship problem, or you know, they're giving him a tale of woe. Do you know what I mean? Like Prahlāda is says, I better stop giving these tales of my misfortune because it might be Guru Aparad, because the Guru is very merciful. So in front of your Guru, you shouldn't really be saying how terrible your things are, because actually you're getting so much mercy that you should be able to see Krishna's hand in your life. So like, is it Guru Aparad to go to the Guru with like, oh, I just got sacked from my job and, you know, I can't pay the bills and things like that? I mean, should you?
Well, in one sense, the Guru is there to guide us in life. So if we are in turmoil, or if we are in confusion, and we cannot understand what or why or what is happening to us and why, then we should reveal our mind to our Guru, so that he can inspire us and he can direct us again with a clear path in our spiritual practice. But towards the end of your question, you brought up like details of our material life, like I've just got fired, or this has happened, or that has happened. Now that very much, generally no, you're going to approach your Guru for instructions on Krishna consciousness. That's what the type of questions that the Guru will be happy to actually answer. At the same time, it very much depends on your specific relationship with the Guru. Some disciples may have that specific relationship with the Guru, and the Guru may, on his own kind of choice, play a role in the details of his disciple's life, where it might be, for instance, advising them about a job or something like that. That might be the specific relationship that someone has with their Guru. And if the Guru is happy to play that role and advise them accordingly, then it's not Guru Aparad as such. But for the most part, we want to, for example, if we're having trouble with like marital problems or career problems, rather, well, having said what I said, if we are having these problems, it might be better to go to senior Vaishnavas in our community. You understand? So if we're having marital problems and our Guru is a sannyasi, sometimes the Guru will have the husband or the wife will come and complain to the Guru. Then a couple of days later, the wife will come and complain to the Guru. So the Guru is in a precarious position. If he advises one or doesn't advise the other, they're going to think he's taking sides. So generally, the Guru wants to stay neutral because he has interest for both their spiritual lives. So generally, if we're having these kind of you say relative problems of marital problems or career problems, etc., or personal problems within a family, better probably there's someone within our community. There's probably senior Vaishnavas, mature devotees, who have, they may, for instance, if it's a marriage issue, then then perhaps better go to some senior, well-respected couple who have been married for many years in Krishna consciousness, rather than go to the Guru.
It says that like Narada cannot tolerate unhappiness in anyone, especially his own disciple. And I guess that might be true of all gurus. They cannot tolerate unhappiness.
Yeah, they can't. Yeah. I remember one time in that regard, this was many years ago. This was for Prahlāda Mahārāja. This is when his health was in good condition. It was in a big kirtan in Mayapur temple. Everyone was dancing in great ecstasy. And there was one boy at the front, near the front of the altar, who looked completely miserable. You know, this is in a crowd of about 400 people. He looked like a guru kuli who was going through some intense, I don't know, suffering. He was very much, and he wasn't part of the kirtan at all. And Prahlāda Mahārāja saw him and went up to him in the middle of the kirtan, you know, and put his arm around him, you know, and offered to console him. He was concerned. But yeah, even we had a wonderful class this morning by Indra Swami.
Well, amazing.
And it may, I don't know if you caught that, but at the end he mentioned about in different ways that the guru helps the disciple.
Yeah,
and he even mentioned with a smile that sometimes he has to help them financially.
Oh,
So
I didn't
my
hear.
speculation, yeah, so like my speculation there is that that's what he has done in the past. I'm speculating, but he did say that, and he said it with a smile. Yeah, so generally we want to, yeah, good for you bringing these points out, we generally, as much as possible, we want to avoid going to the guru. But again, it depends very much on the relationship. No, we shouldn't avoid going to the guru. I mean, we shouldn't avoid going to the guru with questions that are not entirely spiritual. Yeah, one time my spiritual master, he made an announcement that that if any devotees are having problems with the regulative principles, he does not want to be asked about it. In other words, he's saying that I don't want to be speaking. I've got much more better things I want to speak to my disciples about. I mean, I don't want, after so many years, a disciple coming to me about the regulative principles. He said, other people can do that. Go to your mentors. Go to your, go to your Pacific mentors. Go to guides. If you want to ask me questions about Bhava, Shakti, Prema, like that. About advancing in spiritual life. But I'm sure my Guru Maharaj sometimes does. If devotees approach him, he will. I think he does. But generally, he made that request. So there's one example. Different spiritual masters will have different moods and relationships with their disciples. But generally, we want to avoid bringing up mundanity to the Guru, because so much wonderful things we can ask him about Krishna's relationships with his devotees, etc., etc. All right, did that help?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
So basic in essence, it's not Guru Avagya if you approach your Guru, even if it's for so-called mundane things. It doesn't necessarily mean Guru Avagya, but you really want to try to avoid it. Right? And if anyone, at the moment, what we do, devotees who want to read, then they have their hand up. I'm thinking there might be some questions that come up as we're reading, because we don't always comment. So if you want, you can unmute, or you can put questions in the chat. Like, I think a long time ago we mentioned that. But anyway, just I thought of that, because there's lots of hands going up. And sometimes I think, is it a question?
Sorry, Tulsi wants to read, Prabhuji.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. She's just standing here. Where?
Can you speak Sanskrit?
We are in
Why should I stop?
Please note. Text 38, Tulsi.
Yeah, go ahead, Tulsi.
Say, please note, my Lord, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead and suddenly in his form of the Simha rescued my father, and as soon as the Lord fulfilled his purpose, he at once disappeared.
Very good. Yes. So the Lord gone. He came
Thank you.
and he went.
He's so happy. Thank you, Prabhu.
No problem. Very
Okay.
sweet.
I haven't
That's
been. Sorry.
yeah.
sorry,
One
Roger,
second.
Prabhu.
That's why sometimes the Archer Vigraha is considered to be a more merciful incarnation than, say, Lord Nrsimhadev. How is that? Well, Lord Nrsimhadev comes and he goes, but the Archer Vigraha is there for thousands and thousands of years to come and take darshan at any time that you want. So sometimes the Archer Vigraha is glorified in that way. Yeah, and you can continue.
I haven't been able to see my Lord directly whenever I wanted. So when I saw him once on the shore of the ocean, it was just like seeing a dream. Prahlāda claims that since the time he saw Lord Nrsimha, when the Lord appeared from the pillar to kill Hiranyakashipu, Prahlāda has not had such much opportunity to see him again, what to speak of serve him and develop a personal relationship. When Nrsimhadev first appeared, Prahlāda spontaneously devotional was hammed by the novelty and shock of the moment, and by his own fear with reverence, the dramatic setting in the palace on the shore of ocean of the presence of many demigods and sages made it difficult for Prahlāda to freely express his love. This is described in some details in Hari Bhakti Sudhābhini.
All right.
But
so
Hanuman, yeah,
one second. Remember this. Do you remember the nice, sweet detail that how when Lord Nrsimhadev took Prahlāda on his lap
yeah,
and he
then
put his not his hand, he put his paw on his head. No, actually, it was a hand, wasn't it? It was half man. It was a hand. And then he was licking his head. Remember that detail?
yes,
Just like a lion will lick the head of the cub. So this was Lord Nrsimhadev was licking the head of Prahlāda. And yeah, and yeah, something else I was going to mention, I just forgot there. Yeah, yeah, that was it. So, I mean, I get if we just fast track, I guess we know where this is going to go, isn't it? It doesn't take much to work out where eventually it's going to go. Where is it going to go? Where is the narrator going to go eventually?
Hanuman.
And after, now just like fast forward towards the end of this part. Who's the most advanced devotees? Gopis, no?
The gopis, yeah.
Yeah, Gopis. That's where Radharani, we can only guess is going to, because that's the ultimate. Right? That's going. So like just picture for a moment here is Prahlāda, and nicely described is in a big, it's a very dramatic setting. There's demigods, it's very much awe and reverence, even to the point of everyone's hesitant to approach him. And Prahlāda felt difficulty in expressing his full love because of the circumstances. So just now, just picture the ways that the gopis and the cowherd boys interact with Krishna. I mean, how intimate and sweet it is compared to this scene here. Yeah, you can just imagine. I mean, these devotees are great. These devotees are Mahābhagavat Prahlāda, but in comparison to the residents of Vrindavan, yeah, and that's what Krishna prefers the most, isn't it? That's what he prefers the most. He prefers to be chastised by the gopis, to be wrestling with the cowherd boys to be beckoned for lunch by his mother. You know, so just thought of that. So the difference here, the mood of awe and reverence. Right, so you can perhaps just read one more, Mother, then we'll call on Mother Vishalni to read. You can just read text 40.
Okay.
Go ahead.
But Hanuman is much more fortunate. For many thousands of years, he has enjoyed serving the Lord constantly without obstruction. According to Sri Ramayana, Hanuman stayed with Lord Ramchandra on the earth for more than 11,000 years. Srimad Bhagavatam, however, says that he served his Lord directly for the more than 13,000 years. In the 9th canto, 9.11.1836, the Bhagavatam states, after Mother Sita entered the earth, Lord Ramchandra observed complete celibacy and performed an uninterrupted Agnihotra Yajan for 13,000 years. Without transgressing the religious principle, Lord Ramchandra, whose lotus feet are worshipped by devotees in meditation, enjoyed with all the pavilion of transcendental pleasure for as long as needed. Hanuman remained with Lord Ramchandra all this time.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So a lot is highlighting that. I mean, he must have had darshan for, I don't know, let's guess an hour. I don't know. Shakshat, you know, direct association, but Hanuman described here for how long? 13,000.
Wasn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
13,000 years. So Vlad's got a good point there. Right, so Mother Vishalni, you'd like to pick up from text 41?
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yo balista tamo bhaye balya deva prita prasadata samprapta satvara vrato jara marana varjita. He is the most powerful person. When he was just a child, the demigods favored him with several wonderful benedictions. Thus he became immune to old age and death. Commentary. Hanuman's unique strength and his qualities mentioned in this verse and the next enhance his unimpeded service to Lord Ramchandra. How he received the demigod's benedictions is explained in Sri Ramayana, Uttarakhand 35 to 36. As soon as Hanuman was born, he saw the sun rising over his head and thought it to be some ripe fruit hanging from a tree. He jumped up to catch it and would have done so had Indra not intervened to protect the sun by hurling the thunderbolt weapons, striking Hanuman in the jaw and felling him unconscious to the earth. Hanuman's father, Vayu, greatly angered, decided to withhold the force of breath all over the universe, and all the denizens of the universe began to suffocate. To save the universal population, Brahma and the other chief demigods came to Hanuman, revived him, and granted him various benedictions.
Okay, so that's quite a fantastic story, that he was going to swallow the sun. So someone of an atheistic disposition is not going to believe that. And it's inconceivable. Yeah. So sometimes we see that, you know, often there's I kind of say the word politics, there's disagreement amongst the demigods, you know, and sometimes there's mismanagement amongst the devas on the higher levels. Here's something's happened. Hanuman's tried to swallow the sun. Indra, of course, he's the king of heaven, so his duty is to protect the worlds. So then he throws a thunderbolt, you know, and so Vayu, his father, gets fried with that. How dare you throw a thunderbolt at my son? then to pacify Vayu, then Vayu blocks up, he's the demigod from the charge of the earth. So he turns the air conditioning off. And everyone's suffering. The air conditioning shut down, there's no air flowing, and everyone's suffocating. So then they come begging, then Brahma comes and they give Hanuman lots of gifts, lots of mystic cities to appease his father. So his father can turn on the fan again, turn on the air again. It's quite exciting, trying to run a universe. Right, yeah, sorry, Mother Shem, continue.
He is free of all fear. He maintains great vows, and he performs auspicious deeds. Outstanding among heroes, he is an exceptional servant of the Lord of the Raghus. Among the vows of Hanuman, the greatest was his strict celibacy. His auspicious deeds included thoroughly studying all the Vedic literature and acquiring the skills of a poet. His heroism was proven by his exploits in battle. He was a hero in every sense of the word, as described by Bharata Muni, the authority of the poetry. Danviram Dharmaviram Yuddhaviram Tathaiva cha Rasamviram Pipapraha Brahmatri Vidham Evahi. Lord Brahma has defined three kinds of Veer or hero. The hero in charity, the hero in religion, and the hero in battle. There is also a mood of personal reciprocation called Veera or heroism.
Does anyone know, do you know the Hanuman Chalisa? You've heard of that. I mean, a lot of people recite that, especially a lot of persons come from Hindu tradition.
Yeah, Hanuman Chalisa. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they do on Saturdays. Is it? Am I right?
Yeah.
Tuesday and Saturday.
Is
Yeah,
it?
is that actually written by Hanuman, or is it in glorification of Hanuman?
Glorification.
Glorification.
Okay, because interestingly, Hanuman was a great poet. I don't know if you've ever come across any suktas or any of the poets or the writings of Hanuman. Has anyone come across anything? Not, it must be probably out there in some skanda, in some Puranas. But interesting why he's specifically mentioned. The greatest vow was he's being celibate. Does anyone know why that's quite significant? Can anyone say why it's quite significant? I tell you, anyone can guess why it's quite significant? Okay, I say because he's a monkey. Monkeys are not known for being very self-controlled in that area.
That's what I was thinking. And I thought, no, that's not the answer. That's like not going to be the answer.
That's also why, so it's quite significant for, it's also why Bhishma, when he took a vow of celibacy, is considered great because he wasn't living in a brahmachari ashram. He was living in a palace, surrounded by beautiful queens and princes and everything like that. So for that was it was seen as quite an achievement. But anyway, just keep that. So Hanuman is. I remember one time in the Ramayana, I think, where once they've located Sita, all the monkeys lose it a bit. They start drinking and they start smashing things down, and they do things that monkeys do in their intoxicated stupor. Because they're monkeys after all. And I think Ramachandra just shrugged his shoulders along the, monkeys monkeys do what monkeys do. Of course, these are vanaras as well. So these are monkeys with human intelligence. So a little bit different, but still they have the traits. They're monkeys. So, anyway, Hare Krishna. Yeah, you can continue, Madhu Vishal.
Yeah. With playful disregard, he jumped across thousands of miles of ocean. Oh, sorry, miles of fathomless ocean. Expertly in the capital of the Rakshasa's king, he comforted Mother Sita in her distress.
Yeah. So we all know the part of the story. It's quite dramatic, isn't it?
Yes.
Given a synopsis, a little synopsis of the Ramayana here.
Hmm.
Yeah, and continue over.
He boldly threatened. He boldly threatened his enemies, burnt Lanka, and destroyed its citadel. When he brought back news of Sita, he received his master's deep embrace. Hanuman audaciously challenged Ravan and the other Rakshasas by killing everyone. Ravan sent to stop him from destroying the Ashoka Grove. First, 80,000 Rakshasa soldiers, then the great demon Jambumali, then the 7 sons of Ravan's ministers, the 5 commanders of Ravan's armies, and Ravan's own son, Akshay Kumar. When Hanuman delivered to Lord Ramchandra the news that Sita was safe, the Lord was extremely pleased with him. In texts 43 and 44, Prahlāda has listed Hanuman's accomplishments in order of increasing importance. Each additional deed was a more significant reason for Lord Ramchandra's accepting Hanuman as his personal associate.
Yeah, so this is even before, isn't it? If I've understood correctly, this is even before they have built the bridge, and before the mass of the army of the Vanaras and the bears, etc., have descended upon Lanka. So he did a great amount of damage before the battle even begun. And that reminded me of when I was at the Manor, Bhaktivinoda Manor, Kartik Chandra gave, as he always does, brilliant class. And he was mentioning that Bhima's conch Bhima's conch was the size of 6 elephants. And when he blew the conch, it killed one actual hini of warriors on the Kaurava's side. It shattered their hearts, literally, and they all died on the spot, just by hearing that conch blowing, if I've got the details of that right. As Kartik Chandra was explaining. So here, if you saw me put up the, what is a citadel, that's the highest point in the palace, you know, that's where the flag is on top, you know, that's the topmost, most prestigious part of the kingdom. So he smashed that down, you know, Hanuman set that on fire. Anyway, makes a great, wonderful movie, that's for sure. Great, wonderful, exciting episode. Yeah. Hanuman ki jai.
Okay.
Okay, can you continue, brother? Number 45.
It was Hanuman who acted as his Lord's best carrier, his tail serving as a royal white umbrella, his broad back a comfortable seat for the Lord, and it was Hanuman who directed the project of bridging the ocean. Hanuman is the best of all the Lord's carriers, including Garud. When his master needed to travel from Kishkinda to the southern shore of the ocean, Hanuman carried him all the way on his back, beautiful soft back. In modern times, people take the library to carry liberty, sorry, take liberty to carry umbrellas of any color they like, but traditionally only kings were allowed to use white umbrellas. To equip Lord Ramchandra with this symbol of royalty, while in the forest where manufactured umbrellas were not available, Hanuman provided his own white tail. Hanuman took a major part of major part in building the bridge to Lanka, and he inspired the monkey labor force by hurling the largest boulders into its place. Or hurling, actually, sorry, hurling the largest.
Have a wonderful part of the Leela there, pastime when they're building the bridge. Such a fantastic part of the Leela there. And you've seen this, sometimes you may have seen that's going around, sometimes you see it come around where they do a satellite picture, and you can see the bridge, which was there. I forget the dimensions of this bridge. It's pretty big, 100 miles and miles and miles wide. Floating rocks, because of the name Ram was wrote on them. Yeah, was written on them. Yeah. Right, you can. From Mayan, we're hearing now. Continue, Mother. From Mayan, we're hearing. Perhaps we'll call on Mother Anupama to read. We've only got a few minutes left. So, Anupama, are you there?
Yes, I am. Text 46, yeah?
Yes, yes.
Okay, he fulfilled the desires of Vibhishana. He destroyed the military force of the Rakshasas, and he has a special power to deliver the healing herb called Vishala Karani. Vibhishana, even though Ravana's brother, always wanted to become a servant of Lord Ramchandra. Early on, Hanuman furthered Vibhishana's cause by telling the Lord about his saintly behavior. And when Vibhishana defected and crossed the ocean, Hanuman arranged for him to meet with the Lord. The acts of Hanuman mentioned up to this point correspond to those narrated in Sri Ramayana and in the Kishkinda Kanda and Sundara Kanda. From here on, beginning with the phrase Rakshyo Bala Vinasha Krit, destroyed of the Rakshas military force, through the phrase in text 49. The accomplishments of Hanuman in the Yuddha Kanda are briefly described. Srila Sanatana Goswami assumed that his readers were familiar with Valmiki's Ramayana and therefore left out further details of these stories to avoid needlessly increasing the size of his book. During the battle between Lord Ramchandra's armies and those of Ravana, Ravana's son Indrajit attacked in the middle of the night, resorted to magic, and made all the monkey soldiers unconscious. At that time, Sri Lakshmana also played the pastime of becoming unconscious in order to fulfill a prediction by Brahma. On the advice of the physician Susena, Hanuman set out to find the herb Vishala Karani, which alone could save the lives of Lakshman and the Vanara soldiers. He was able to bring the herb from Gandhamandana mountain, not only once, but twice. In the course of this, he had to defeat an army of Gandhavaras, uproot the entire mountain because he couldn't distinguish which plant was the correct one, and swiftly return before it was too late.
Yeah. Also, the Ramayana is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but as in here, it's given in very brief. It's given very briefly because there's no Sukadeva Goswami or Maharaj Parikshit had 7 days, so it's given there. It's there in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but it's in very brief. So here's the same. It's like a brief description. Yeah. And I didn't know. I'm not so well read up on the Ramayana, actually. I haven't read it myself for a few years, but I didn't realize that Indrajit had caused all the monkey soldiers to be unconscious. That's millions of monkeys. They all became unconscious. I haven't heard that before. I know that Lakshman was laid down. He was laid low, and that we know, but here's another detail. And we know, yeah, in the story, he grabs the whole mountain, so he cannot find the Pacific herb. Yeah. Continue, Mother.
Okay. He was the very life of his soldiers, always giving great pleasure to his divine Lord and the Lord's younger brother, Lakshmana. He devotedly served as carrier for both of them. Supremely intelligent and valorous, he brought victory for Lord Ramchandra. He added to the spotless fame of his Lord who killed the king of Rakshasas. Commentary. Hanuman showed his intelligence in giving strategic advice and his prowess in opposing the enemy on the battlefield, especially during the confrontations with Indrajit and Ravan. During these battles, both Ramchandra and Lakshman rode on his back. Hanuman increased Lord Ramchandra's fame in various ways by jumping over the ocean, helping set the stage for the killing of Ravana, and so on.
Yes,
It was
good to remember here that we know we have these 7 angas of devotion: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smarana, Padasevana, Archanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmani, Vedanam. So Hanuman is the personification of
Dasya.
Dasyam, yeah. He's the one who's given as an example of the perfect mood of being a servant, completely sold out to the service of Lord Ram. I mean, completely. Everything about him is Ram and Ram's service. So we can very much be inspired with. So he's Dasya. He very much exemplifies that. Yeah, can continue up.
It was Hanuman who encouraged Mother Sita, and by the Lord's order, this Hanuman, the one true recipient of his master's favor, still lives in this world, though unable to bear separation from the Lord. Commentary. After Lord Ramchandra killed Ravana in battle, Hanuman brought this news to Mother Sita in the Ashoka garden. This brought Sita back to life, and her life became full in happiness when Hanuman took her to meet her husband. Thus Hanuman rendered many kinds of welcome service to Lord Ram and his dear devotees. After describing this, Prahlāda next mentions the rewards Hanuman enjoyed for this service. When Lord Ramchandra was an anointed king of Ayodhya, he particularly favored Hanuman by presenting him Mother Sita's gold necklace. More than this, he granted Hanuman unflinching pure devotion to him. Since Hanuman's life with Lord Ramchandra after the victory was so fortunate, one might ask how Hanuman could ever have left the Lord's association. Why did he not return with Lord Ram to the eternal Ayodhya in Vaikuntha, along with the other residents of the kingdom? The answer is that his Lord specifically asked him to stay behind on earth. Atma Veshwara means his own Lord, and it also means the Lord of all Atmas. In other words, by staying in this world, Hanuman gave all its inhabitants a much better chance to take the path of pure devotional service. Lord Ramchandra ordered Hanuman to make this severe sacrifice because the Lord wanted to bestow such mercy on the conditioned souls. Living in separation from the Lord is Hanuman's most difficult and glorious service.
Perhaps let's just pause there. I think there's just 1 minute to go.
Okay.
But this is because Hanuman was so much of a perfect servant, then he was probably the only one who could follow such an instruction as that. And we can imagine how much Ripalamba, how much separation Hanuman must have felt upon even getting that instruction, let alone when the Lord left and he stayed on earth. Does that mean that he's still present? Does anyone know the details of this?
I think Hanuman is still here somewhere, they say.
Oh.
I don't know.
Does that also mean that he's not there in Ayodhya, the eternal spiritual realm of Ayodhya? Anyone know? Or is he in both places as an expansion? I hard to imagine that he's not there in Ayodhya. In Lord Ram's Bhauma Leela and these earthly realms, I think Hanuman exhibited parts of being separated, but in Ayodhya itself, anyone could perhaps need to study it a bit, need to find out, kind of these details. But anyway, Hanuman did that. He stayed, at least we're reading here, that he Oh dear. Why?
Prabhu,
Preach?
can I ask a question? Sorry.
Yes, yes.
You know, Prabhu, in the previous couple of verses back, they mentioned that he lived more than 13,000 years, and then, you know, that was text 40, and that he
Yeah,
lived 7,000. So how
Good
does
point.
that equate with him now that he's still on earth?
Yeah, I don't know. Well,
I think it said served him for 13,000
oh
years.
yeah, so he served
He
him
wasn't-
personally. He served
Yeah.
him personally.
Yeah, he served him for
Oh,
13, but
no.
then he also, in the first one, he says he stayed with Lord Ramchandra on this for more than 11,000 years. So that would mean what? Serving in total for 13,000, yes?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
that's because again, this is in I think this is in
Treta Yuga, time scale is different.
yeah, it's closer to Satya Yuga. So
Yeah, that's
therefore,
right. Yeah.
I have fantastic lifespans
Okay,
compared to
okay.
like
No, that's fine.
100,000 years.
Yeah,
Here we're
okay.
lucky. If you get to 80, then you're lucky.
Yeah, very
All
true.
right. Let's perhaps pause there. Nice. We got into the Ramayana here. We're hearing some wonderful Leela and pastimes of the Ramayana. How can we, if we're hearing about Hanuman, how can we not hear about Lord Ramachandra? You can't.
Very
They both come-
Very true.
Of
Very true.
course, yeah.
you
Thank you
can't
so
just-
much, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
everyone.
Thank you, Murli Prabhu.
Thank you for Tara and Tulsi.
Yeah,
Thank
His
you.
Grace Murli Prabhu ki.
Ye
Yeah,
Jai.
thank you,
Hey.
Murli
Sorry,
Prabhu.
you go away.